بسم الله رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Assalamu alaikum everyone, and welcome to part 2 of the webinar for the Ramadan remedy. There was a part 1 last week that I did do, and as mentioned, I will be sharing that on YouTube so that you can benefit from the first lecture as well as the second lecture. They're both slightly different. The first one was much longer, it was 2 hours long, but I've included things in here that I wasn't able to fit into the first lecture. So inshallah, you'll benefit from both. The Ramadan remedy is actually based on a book, and I've posted the link to the book in the chat, so you can access it there, inshallah. You can download it from my website at propheticmedicine.com. And this book actually is very near and dear to my heart. It was, I wrote this about 6 years ago in 2018. It was at a time where I was quite ill and I wasn't sure if I was going to live to see Ramadan. So it was very important to me at the time that I write all of the knowledge that I had acquired at that point, write it down, something cohesive, something easy for people to understand, and meaningful. And so I wanted it to be more specific about Ramadan just because I didn't think I was going to live to see Ramadan. And so I shared that book, and it's been circulating for almost 6 years, and it is a free ebook. You're more than welcome to share my link with your family and friends so that they download it. And that way they have access to all the other free ebooks and free webinars that I do that they can benefit from. Now, for those who don't know who I am, my name is Aiman Attar. In Arabic, Iman means faith, and Attar means the herbalist or the perfumist, someone who usually uses herbs or essential oils, and you see them in the souks selling all the herbal medicines and stuff. I am a researcher and author in prophetic medicine, Islamic medicine, and herbalism. I have a few books that I've authored, such as the Ramadan Remedy, as well as the Islamic Medicine's Guide to the Body Types. I began studying Islam officially back in 2008 and with Al-Maghrib Institute and Al-Kawthar. I took courses in Aqidah, Tafsir, Sirah, Fiqh, Salah, Tazkiyah, the names and attributes of Allah. And I really wanted to just sort of like learn Islam from the bottom up, like learn it from the ground. And not only did I take courses, but I invested time in reading books as well as listening to a lot of YouTube lectures and attending any type of workshops or presentations that I could get my hands on. I have, in the past 2 years, I've developed quite a few courses on the propheticmedicine.com platform. I have a course called Nurasunna Rediscover Wellness Masterclass, which sort of reintroduces you to your body, why it gets sick, how it heals from an Islamic medicine perspective, and compares it to modern medicine and how explains sort of why there's a difference between modern medicine and Islamic medicine. I also have another course called Living by Design Mentorship Program, which is 6 months long. And in this course, this program, what we do is we focus on really building the habits of how to listen to your body, how to eat according to the season, how to learn about foods from an Islamic medicine perspective. So it's really focused on herbs and food, and not so much the medicinal like taste and all that stuff. So we don't focus more on the traditional Islamic medicinist perspective, but more how to implement the knowledge and how to live day by day the way Allah SWT has designed us. My journey in Islamic medicine and prophetic medicine actually started in Ramadan in 2014. It was probably the first or second week of Ramadan. I was 3 weeks postpartum. I had a very small baby in my arms, and right after iftar, I had developed an allergy to peppers. It was my first encounter. I used to eat peppers all the time. It was part of our diet. But for some reason on that particular day, when I ate peppers in my meal, within 10 minutes, I developed anaphylaxis where my throat began to close up, my sinuses, my throat, I couldn't breathe for maybe a good 10 seconds. And, you know, I was in complete shock as to what was happening. I had no idea. I'd never had exposures to allergies before then. And from then on, it really did turn my life upside down. I wasn't able to eat normally with my family and friends. I had so many allergic reactions on a regular basis because I was learning what foods contain peppers and all the different derivatives of peppers like paprika. So it was a painful experience. And no matter how many doctors I saw or how many allergists or naturopaths, nobody could really give me the answers that I needed. So I sort of turned to Allah at that point, and I submitted to two truths that I had known about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and what He teaches us in Islam. And the first one was from Surah Al-Baqarah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that perhaps you dislike something which is good for you, and you like something which is bad for you, and Allah knows and you do not know. And I really had to submit that, you know what, this illness that I'm going through, this hardship that I'm facing right now when it comes to food, there has to be some goodness out of it. Otherwise, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wouldn't put me through this. So I'm going to approach it with an open mind and sort of accept the challenge. The second was that Allah does not send down any disease, but He also sends down the cure for it. And I knew that if I believe this to be true, then all I have to do is search for the answer and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give it to me. Well, what happened in the past 10 years is that I ended up learning so much about the human body, both from a modern medicine perspective as well as an Islamic medicine perspective. I ended up studying so many hadiths, listening to so many lectures, reading so many books, that my knowledge completely changed. I mean, if you knew me before, you would have known me as, this marketer, this entrepreneur who, built businesses and was very corporate. I had nothing to do with medicine. I had no interest in becoming a doctor ever in my life. It was really at that point that I knew that there was something in this that wasn't a career that I wanted to build, but this was a passion that I wanted to answer for myself. And I wondered at that point how many other people are also struggling, not getting the answers that they need. And so, alhamdulillah, this, as much as I hate the allergy because I still suffer with it, this allergy has actually helped me heal a lot of other issues that I was going through in my life within my health, as well as help me help others. So I still do hold on to these two hadiths, ayah and hadith, that I do think that there's been so much good that's come out of it, that if you ask me, would you want to give up your allergy? I'd say no. Alhamdulillah, I'm at a place of peace with it. I ask Allah to heal me and everyone who's sick, but I also ask Allah to make it a source of benefit for us and for the ummah. So today we're really going to focus on three things in this lecture, inshallah. We're going to focus on clean digestion, what that is, and how we can benefit from it, especially in Ramadan. The benefits of fasting, and then the things that we do that might sometimes remove those benefits, and what is the Ramadan remedy and how does this help us? So you can't help but marvel at how ingenious the design of the human body is. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us. And the more you learn about how we really function and how our body really functions, the more your heart will actually feel an awe towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I found that the more I study the way He's created us and the more I study food and the seasons and everything that He's designed for us, the more you really get a deeper appreciation and connection to Allah. So food is the basic foundation of our survival. It has to be mechanically and chemically deconstructed in our digestive system in order for us to extract the nutrients that we need so that every living cell that we have can be nourished. This is done by breaking down everything we ingest by chewing, and then it's soaked in digestive enzymes that further break down the carbohydrates, fats, proteins, and nucleic acids into smaller molecules that can be absorbed on a cellular level. Now, what happens is if this process doesn't function well, if there's any issue in the digestive process, meaning you don't have enough digestive enzymes, you have low stomach acid, your nutrients are not, the food that you're eating is not fully being broken down and absorbed, what ends up happening is that some of that undigested food starts to become toxic in our system and then shows up as many illnesses that we have. So there's one hadith that really stuck for me when I was going through this and I was studying, is that we know that a human being fills no worse vessel than his stomach, and it's sufficient for a human to eat just a few mouthfuls to keep his spine straight. But if he must fill it, then one third for food, 1/3 for drink, and 1/3 for air. Now, I want you to think about this, is that the first thing that's mentioned is that a few mouthfuls will be sufficient. How many of us can eat just a few mouthfuls? Like, can you eat 3 or 4 bites out of your meal and say that this is sufficient to keep my spine straight? And then the hadith continues to say, but if you must fill it, like if you are going to eat more than that, then 1/3 for food, 1/3 for drink, and 1/3 for air. This doesn't mean that you fill the entire stomach with just food, which unfortunately a lot of us are doing. So what's the wisdom behind eating so little? I want you to think of your stomach like a washing machine. Would you mix whites and reds together? Would you put bleach in something that has both whites and red together? Would you mix bleach in that mixture? Would you stuff the machine to the rim, leaving no room for water or space for the clothes to move during agitation? Would you stuff your machine 3 times a day, 365 days a year with heavily soiled content? Fill it all the way to the rim. What you're going to end up doing is you're going to notice that your washing machine will no longer work properly. You might begin to see that the clothes, the sheets have debris or stains on them. You might find that it's no longer squeezing out the water completely, and it might even break down and require repair. Well, this is exactly the way our stomach works. Our stomach is, this size, which is about 750 milliliters. It requires space for food, space for liquid, and space for air so that it can properly function the way it's designed. When we fill it completely with food, then we give it no space for liquid and we give it no space for air. Then it forces itself to expand, which is why you'll see that you might get bloated after a meal. It's because it needs the space in order for it to do its job. So it has to bloat your stomach in order for it to do its job. And then you're probably going to notice that you're very thirsty and you're constantly drinking if you've eaten your fill because your stomach needs more water or more liquid in order for it to do its work. The only problem is if we do this repeatedly, especially even if you do it just for one meal, it won't have enough stomach acid to break down the contents of what you filled. So if you filled your stomach to the rim with just food, and then it expanded because it was bloating, and then you drank 3 cups of water because you were dying of thirst after your meal, now you don't have enough stomach acid to the water ratio in order to break down the food. Now the stomach acid isn't strong enough. And that's similar to bleach. If you have to do, 1 tablespoon of bleach to 1 cup of water, if you were to do 1 tablespoon of bleach to a liter of water, you're not going to get the same cleaning effect on your laundry if you dilute like stomach acid. It's really important that we preserve it. So the natural size is 750 milliliters, which means your meal should really only be about 250 milliliters to 350 milliliters, which is the size of a bowl, like a cereal bowl. The more food content you put into your stomach, the more it's going to need water. And this is the reason people feel thirsty after their iftar. It isn't because they're dehydrated. It's actually because their stomach needs more fluid to break down the food and they've overeaten. And if you notice, if you eat less, you will be less thirsty as well. Now, if you don't believe me, and I know a lot of people don't, I've had this discussion. Even within my own household, I've had people challenge me and say, no, it's not possible because it looks like a bowl, but when you chew it and break it down, it's less than a bowl. So they don't think that a bowl of food is still sufficient. They think that it should be more. So if you don't believe me, take the challenge. Tonight, measure your food, let it only fit into 1 bowl. Don't eat anything after that for 2 hours. Just, eat and then pretend you're fasting again for 2 hours. So you have your food, you have your cup of water, and then nothing after that for 2 hours. Tomorrow, do the same thing, but measure 2 bowls, consume it, and then don't eat anything for 2 hours. And then see how much water you need to drink. So compare your first day to your second day and compare how bloated you are the first day to the second day, or how uncomfortable or tired you might feel. On the 3rd day, eat your fill. Eat 3 bowls. Have 1 bowl of soup, 1 bowl of salad, and 1 bowl that has protein and grain in it. And then again, see for yourself how you feel. I can almost guarantee you that when you eat 3 bowls full, you're going to be bloated, you're going to be uncomfortable, you're going to have probably some digestive pain, you might get acid reflux, you might even flare up gastritis or a gallbladder attack, because it requires a lot of work for your stomach to do this. And so especially after a long day of fasting where your stomach has been cool for 12 to 14 hours, to give it that much work to do all at once, it's going to need maybe 4 to 6 hours to now break down the 3 bowls of food that you had. Whereas when you only eat 1 bowl, it can process it a lot faster, you digest faster, then you can go ahead and eat again if you really wanted to after 2 hours. So the problem with how we eat right now is we don't measure what we consume. The way we eat, and I did this yesterday and I suffered for it for the past 24 hours, is we serve food on the floor for everybody to eat. I didn't measure the way I normally measured. I just sort of picked things and I ate them as I felt like it. What happens is when you're doing that, you're not measuring how much you're actually eating. You lose track. Did I have, one bowl of soup, or did I have two? Did I have one samosa, or did I have three? You kind of lose track when you're eating and talking. So what happens is that when we stop only when we feel sufficed, at that point, we've already eaten too much. Because when you leave a third for food, you should feel a little bit empty. You should feel like you haven't eaten enough. You should feel, as you leave the table, a little bit hungry. And that's okay. That's part of the challenge. That's part of the way we are supposed to leave when we leave the table. However, if we eat until we think we're full, then we've already eaten too much. And again, if you just lay food out on the table like this and you're picking at different things, you're not going to have any idea how much you actually physically ate in terms of a bowl. So it's always best to measure into a bowl so that you have some idea as to how much you often eat. And then even if you measure how many bowls you've eaten, if you realize you're eating 3 bowls or 4 bowls or 5 bowls, then it's going to give you a clear indication as to why some of the health issues you have, where they're stemming from. Most of them are stemming from our digestive system because we overeat. That is the number one reason why people get sick, because we overeat. It isn't because we eat carbs or we eat proteins or we eat fats. It's because we just overeat everything in general. So even if you're having salad or carrots and cucumbers, you should not be eating 3 bowls full of carrots and cucumbers, even though it's only veggies. The reason for it is, again, it interferes with clean digestion. Your body won't be able to break it down properly, and you're going to stress your stomach. Now, the caveat is you have to wait until your stomach is completely empty before you start eating the next meal. So if you're having something heavy with animal protein or fried food, you should give your stomach a good 3 to 4 hours of eating nothing. No desserts, no coffee like lattes, nothing that requires more digestion. You can sip on herbal teas, you can have things that are going to improve digestion like kombucha, but you should not be eating anything that requires heavy digestion. If you've eaten a light meal like fruits and vegetables, something easy to digest, then a 2-hour window would be sufficient. Now, the intention isn't to create, feeding habits where you're eating every 2 to 3 hours like a newborn, but it's to sort of show you that your stomach doesn't need to eat that much, and to help you recognize when your stomach becomes satiated and how long it takes for you to get hungry. But then you still have to space that out. You should not be eating every time you're hungry, especially on the non-fasting days. If you wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the morning and you go to sleep at midnight, you should not be eating at all times. Just because you get hungry every 2 to 3 hours doesn't mean you should eat every 2 to 3 hours. Hunger is because of how we train our body. So there's a hunger hormone that we're responsible for. The more we eat, the more it ignites, and the more it shows up again and again that we're hungry. It also has to do with our blood glucose level. So that fluctuates, so it's going to tell us that we're hungry. So if you eat well-balanced foods that have some carbs, some protein, it doesn't have to be animal protein, it could be vegetable protein, your hunger hormone is going to reduce within a few days. You're going to start to feel like you're less hungry as the days go by. And you'll notice that at the beginning of Ramadan, everyone's appetite is much bigger. By the time it's the 30th day of Ramadan, you're eating very little. You have no interest. It doesn't have to be a big feast anymore. So you're not as hungry towards the end of Ramadan as you are in the beginning of Ramadan. And that's because your hunger thermostat has adjusted over these days, and your stomach size has shrunk back to its normal size. Now, portion size is not the only thing we need to consider. Different body types have different metabolic fires, different metabolisms. And so this is going to affect how quickly you digest your meal, whether you can digest it in 2 hours or whether you need longer. This also depends on your own body type. Now, there are 4 body types, and there's an entire book on it. There's a few webinars and lectures that I've done on this as well. So there's lots of free information online that you can find from my platform and my YouTube channel. But one thing to really notice is that 1, you should take the body type quiz to know what body type you are. 2 is if you are melancholic or phlegmatic, these 2 body types have a predisposition to a cold digestive system, meaning you are already born with a cold digestive system. This is the way your body is designed. It's going to be more sluggish. It's going to cause more constipation. It's going to make it harder for you to digest meals, or especially heavy foods. So you want to focus on eating light, easy to digest foods this is going to be better for your health and better for your digestive system. If you are choleric or sanguine, then yes, you have a warm digestive system and you might crave heavy foods often, but to eat them every day or at every meal is going to wear down your digestive system. So just because you can digest it, because you have a very strong metabolism, doesn't mean you should. We should all still learn to restrain that appetite and to give the body light days and heavy days, like alternate between foods. It's not haram to eat your fill, but it does have negative effects on the health and on the spiritual health if you do it consistently. So the metabolism does vary from one body type to another. Islamic medicine does recognize that there are 4 body types that are taken from Greek medicine. The concept of the body types and metabolism has existed for thousands of years. Even in modern medicine, there's still concepts of different body types. There's like endomorph and ectomorph, or they'll say it's the blood type, or, you know, in Ayurveda, it's there, it's traditional Chinese medicine is there. So this isn't a foreign concept. It's just something that really modern nutrition has abandoned. Modern medicine and nutrition has sort of abandoned this. So we're not really looking at our digestive system and our nutrition from our own body type. We're kind of looking at it as a one size fits all, and that doesn't really work. Now, some individuals who have a fast metabolism, you can eat a lot without gaining weight, but weight is not the only indicator of health. So just because you don't gain a lot of weight or you aren't overweight doesn't mean it's not going to negatively affect your body. Internally, it could mean that you're still not digesting your foods properly. It could mean that your gut flora is still imbalanced. It could mean that you could still develop diseases. Weight is not the only indication. It's only 1 out of 7 things that we look at. So someone who could be overweight could have a lot more fat on their body, but they could have better skin. They can have no cholesterol issues, no diabetes issues, no organ issues internally that's going on. So we can't just look at weight as the indication of I'm healthy or not healthy. It really has to do with a lot more than just the weight. There's so many other things that we take in consideration. And that also means that someone who struggles to lose weight, it isn't necessarily because they're overeating. It could be because their metabolism and their body type holds on to foods a lot differently than other body types. So for those individuals, you know, we would customize something a little bit different for them if they wanted to lose weight. But everyone in Ramadan should be able to lose weight. Phlegmatics, sanguines, cholerics, melancholics, everyone will lose weight. And that's because of the way Ramadan itself is designed. So it's designed to cleanse our body. And fat loss is one of the ways that we detoxify, because toxins are held in our fat cells. So understanding your body type is really important. I do recommend that you take the body type quiz at propheticmedicine.com. Another interesting hadith that I came across was the food of 1 person is sufficient for 2, the food of 2 is sufficient for 4, and the food for 8 is sufficient. The food for 4 is sufficient for 8. Now, can you imagine, this is at the time of the Prophet Muhammad SAW, where they already didn't eat as much as we eat today. And this hadith sort of, again, immortalizes our idea of nutrition. There's another hadith that speaks about how a kafir will eat 7 stomachs compared to a Muslim. So we know that we're influenced by, unfortunately, the West. So their food habits, their food postings, their food trends and diets, and all of these things. Most of the food diets that I look at from the West, you'll see like keto, they'll tell you can eat any amount of protein, or so long as you're only eating between, 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock, they'll give you this intermittent fasting window. But there's so many flaws with these diets and the way that they're made, is that most of them are actually anti-Islamic medicine, against the Sunnah, and they're also quite detrimental to our health in the long term. Again, Allah SWT designed us. It's like He's the manufacturer of the body. When He gives you the manual and the instructions for how to feed it and nourish it and take care of it, we should be taking His guidance first. So even when you pour yourself a plate of food, always look at it and think to yourself that the food of 1 person is sufficient for 2. So meaning, if God forbid we were in a situation where there was a shortage of food, you know that whatever you're going to eat for your meal today, this could actually feed 2 people and keep them going and keep their back straight and keep them surviving for another day, because they were nourished with this little bit. We don't actually need a lot for nourishment. Now, the physical benefits of fasting, and I'm not going to focus on the spiritual benefits. I'm really just talking about more like the scientific benefits to the body, the healing aspect of it. I could spend hours talking about the spiritual benefits. Inside of us is believed, and this was believed by Hippocrates and a lot of the traditional medicine practitioners, is that inside of us we have our own inner doctor. And you can call that the immune system, or you can call that just something else that Allah SWT has put within us. But there is this inner physician. And so Hippocrates says that everyone has a physician inside him or her. We just have to help it with its work. The natural healing force within each of us is the greatest force in getting well. Our food should be our medicine should be our food. But to eat when you're sick is to feed your sickness. And another like traditional medicine practitioner also stated that instead of using medicine, fast for a day. So fasting was part of the healing remedies that they gave. I mean, how many doctors do you go to today that tell you to do a fast in order for you to regain your health? Like you should fast for a few days, dawn to sunset. You don't hear that. Unfortunately, this isn't part of modern medicine. We're not encouraged to fast, but there's so many. I mean, now in functional medicine, they speak of it more, but from traditional medicine, we always knew that fasting was the way to heal the body quickly, to sharpen the mind, and to remove the things that are causing the harm to begin with, which is usually an imbalanced diet or eating in excess. So fasting is a time where our body detoxifies. But in order for the body to do this detoxification, it has to shift its gears from digesting food towards repairing and healing the body. And it can't do that if you're always eating. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took out of 12 months out of the year, and he said 1 month will be dedicated for like an intense detoxification of the body, both spiritually and physically. If you think of your body like a car, you can't clean your car, you can't change the tires or fix the engine if the car is in motion. You have to take it to a shop, you have to stop its function in order for it to be repaired. And our bodies work the same way. If we're constantly digesting food at breakfast, lunch, dinner, all day, every day, there's never really enough time for it to do the entire cleanse that it needs to do. And we're always digesting food because we eat so frequently throughout the day, and it makes it difficult for the body to heal if we're constantly eating. So the fasting actually gives your body a break. Now you might think, okay, well, I'm not eating all day, but the food that we have at breakfast at 8 a.m. takes several hours before it leaves the body. So it could take anywhere between 12 to 30 hours for that breakfast meal to exit your body. Now, if it was something really clean, if you got up in the morning, you only had carrots and like lebne dip and an egg, you could possibly digest it and expel it from your body within 12 hours. But if you had something quite heavy to eat, it could take your body 30 hours for that one meal to leave your body. Now, when you abstain from food and drink for 16 to 18 hours a day, usually Ramadan, this especially in the summer months, in the winter months, it's a little bit shorter, it allows your body to completely digest the meal that it had, as well as start the healing process. Fasting also enables the gallbladder to concentrate the bile properly and enhances the breakdown of nutrients in the small intestine. This is the reason why so many people get gallbladder attacks in Ramadan, because their gallbladder hasn't been properly functioning all year round. Because if you eat every 2 to 3 hours and you're having heavy foods every 2 to 3 hours, your gallbladder needs 10 to 12 hours to concentrate the bile. And if you're eating every 2 to 3 hours, you're not ever really concentrating it that much, so it's not going to break down the meal that well. So in Ramadan, a lot of people who have gallbladder issues get gallbladder attacks repeatedly in this month, especially if they overeat or if they eat heavy foods. Now, in Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O believers, fasting is prescribed for you as it was for those before you, so perhaps you will become mindful of Allah. And it's funny that the English translation, the word used is prescribed, and in Arabic it's kutiba, which is it's written for you, it's prescribed for you, because really it is the perfect remedy for both our physical and spiritual self. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prescribes it to us like a medicine for 29 to 30 days. Imagine going to a doctor and he tells you for 29 to 30 days you have to take this remedy in order for your body to heal. Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knew that you fasting 29 to 30 days every single year was going to heal you both from the inside and the out, from your spiritual self and your physical self, because food and our spirituality is actually very connected. And I discussed that more in the book. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of time to discuss it in today's presentation. But I was kind of curious as to why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have so many sunnah days throughout the year? Like, I wanted to see if I actually added them all up, if I fasted the 6 days in the month of Shawwal and 3 white days every month, if I fasted Mondays and Thursdays, the 9 days of Dhul Hijjah and the 3 days of Ashura, how many days a year am I actually fasting? And I was surprised to see that it actually comes up to about 170 days a year that we're recommended to fast, and 29 to 30 being the minimum that's mandated for us. Can you imagine if you're fasting 170 days a year, you're essentially fasting every other day. You're fasting every other day, every day, the whole year, which is the fast of Dawood. That was considered the best fast, is if you fasted every other day. That's been recorded as the best fast for us to have. And we are not supposed to fast more than that. That was the maximum that we were supposed to fast, the fast of Dawood, alayhi salam. But I find it quite interesting that if we were to actually fast all of these sunnah days, we're constantly healing and repairing our body every single month, every single change of seasons, because obviously Dhul Hijjah and Ashura and Shawwal, they all fall at different times of the year. They're not always in the same months that follow one another. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, again, He's designed us. He knows the health benefits and the spiritual benefits to this dry fast. Now, the reason I call it dry fasting is because intermittent fasting, which is trendy with the keto diet, is not actually a dry fast. It's called a wet fast because you can still have coffee or herbal teas, or you can have water while you're fasting from food. But the Islamic dry fasting, where we abstain from food and drink, is actually a lot more beneficial, because when water is no longer entering into our system, it necessitates a different level of healing within our body. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, again, He knew why to remove water from us, even though everyone thinks, no, we're going to dehydrate if we don't have it. But there's wisdom behind it that we can't fully understand, and science can't always prove with their testing, right? We have to sort of trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He knows the body best. So if you're going to do any type of fasting outside of Ramadan, stick to the sunnah. Again, I don't like this whole intermittent fasting because it's done in the evening. It's not done during the day, where people stop eating from 8 o'clock at night and then they start eating again at 12 or 1 in the afternoon the next day. Although that's good that there's a big window that you're not eating, it doesn't have the same benefits of you fasting from dawn until sunset. It doesn't have the same benefits of you dry fasting. So if you want to fast outside of Ramadan for health benefits, the sunnah way, the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is designed for us, is going to be the best healing method for us. So what happens to our body when we fast? The organs get a much needed vacation. They really get to rest a lot during the fast. Your metabolic fire that constantly needs nutrients. So our body is built on energy. We need energy to keep us going, to be able to function, work, walk, talk. So when we don't have a constant supply of nutrients coming in through feeding, that metabolic fire now has to turn to your inner reserve for extra food supply. So this is where fat burning happens naturally. So as soon as you begin fasting, you are telling the body to start turning towards its own reserve and burn it off so that it can keep your body nourished. Your hormone levels change when you fast. It allows the stored fat to become more accessible as fuel and energy. Your inner healing process is initiated, cellular repair, waste removal, detoxification, all of this happens. This is known as autophagy, and it's considered actually one of the most potent ways of healing the body, because the body goes in and knows exactly where to repair what's there that's not supposed to be there. Then toxins and waste are consumed in a process called autolysis, and then insulin levels drop significantly, which facilitates, again, the fat burning. So for those who want to lose weight, Ramadan is the opportune time. And if you're not losing weight in Ramadan because all of these things are happening that allows you to lose weight, then there's something that you're not doing properly in the hours that you're allowed to eat. Either you're constantly eating, either you're eating your fill like the 3 bowls as opposed to the 1 bowl. It could mean that you're just having a lot of sugary drinks and snacking on unhealthy things. That means you're doing something to interfere with what is designed to happen in this month, because we are designed to lose weight in this month. And if you're not losing weight, then there's something that you're doing that you need to change on your part. The digestive secretions and enzymes that are used to digest, neutralize, and eliminate toxic waste from the body through the GI tract. So our secretions increase, our enzymes increase. The most intense detoxification and rebalancing actually happens in the first 3 days. So this is why people get headaches, they might feel lethargic, they might have constipation, all of these things that happen in the first 3 to 5 days. It's because your body is just adjusting to the fast and detoxifying. Then your body shifts into ketosis mode for the rest of the month. So now your body becomes a little bit more efficient at being in ketosis and burning a lot more fat. And this is where most of the fat burning happens. So you might not notice the fat loss in the first week, but you're going to notice it in week 2, 3, and 4, inshallah. And the body, what it does is that it removes the most recent toxins first and then continues to the older and older toxins that are accumulating in our body. So a 30-day fast means that your body is going really deep cleaning into your system, which is why the monthly fasts are maintenance. It's like having your house cleaned, every week. Monday and Thursday fast is like cleaning your house twice a week. The 3 days a month is like doing a deep clean every month. But when you do a 30-day clean, imagine cleaning your house for 30 days consecutive. You're going to get to things that you had never gotten to before. So to lose weight in Ramadan, you could easily lose 2 pounds a week, and that's usually the healthy amount that we're all going to lose. It's not suggested to try to lose more than that. We just need to consume 500 calories less in order to lose 2 pounds a week. So if every day you consume 500 calories less than what you normally consumed, you're going to lose 2 pounds at the end of that week, which is about 1 kilo. This is because we have a restricted eating period, which means we're not eating or grazing all day like we normally do. And this really only allows for 2 meals. If you're breaking your fast at 7 o'clock at night or 8 o'clock at night, you really don't want to be eating at midnight again, because now you're interfering with your digestive process. Your body's supposed to be resting at midnight. It's not supposed to be digesting, especially if you're going to sleep. You should be sleeping on an empty stomach. You shouldn't be sleeping on a full stomach, because again, these are the things that make us sick. So essentially, the way Ramadan is designed in the summer days, where the nights are short and the days are long, is that you're only going to get 2 meals. You're going to get your iftar, you're going to get your suhoor, and that's really all you have. In the winter months, where the night is longer and the days are shorter, Allah SWT has allowed for our body during this time of year to be feeding more, because you break fast at 5 o'clock and then your suhoor could be at 6 o'clock in the next morning. So you might have 2 or 3 meals in that window compared to what you would have in the summer or spring. Now, since fasting ignites the body to use up its reserve, we will naturally lose weight in this month. And this isn't a concern, even if you feel that you're underweight, because fat holds toxins. And when it's broken down and released, we may feel ill in the first few days because of the healing crisis, but losing fat also means getting rid of more toxins that your body is holding on to. However, if you eat at suhoor and iftar and you sabotage your fat burning benefits in Ramadan, however, how we eat at suhoor and how we eat at iftar can sabotage the fat burning process. Just because you fasted all day doesn't give you the green card to go ahead and have every junk food that you are craving in the evening. Doesn't mean desserts and sodas and chips and all the junk food possibly after you've already eaten your fill. Because these are things that are going to be counterproductive to the health benefits that you were supposed to be getting in the month of Ramadan. If you maintain the 1 bowl per meal approach and you only eat when your stomach is empty, you're going to find it very easy to lose weight. Even if you're having carbs and proteins and fats, you don't have to eat only like proteins. It's not like a keto diet. You can eat carbs, you can eat proteins, you can eat fats, you can eat whatever you want, so long as you're only filling a bowl worth. Now, if you are concerned because you're melancholic body type and you feel that you're already underweight and you're losing too much weight, then I would recommend the advice that was given to Aisha radiallahu anha when she was underweight and her mother wanted her to gain weight. so she could send her to the house of the Prophet Muhammad SAW. She desired, but nothing which she desired benefited me until she gave her cucumbers with fresh dates. So when you combine cucumbers with fresh dates, Aisha radiallahu anha was then able to gain as much weight as she desired. So there is something in this hadith that proves to us that the combination of foods that we eat together has an effect on how we maintain weight or lose weight. And so for melancholic body types, you just want to make sure you're consuming enough carbs, fats, and proteins at both suhoor and iftar. You want to be sure that you are eating your bowl and you're getting a fair portion of each type. It doesn't have to be animal protein. So beans are proteins, lentils are proteins. There's even dairy is protein. There's so many other ways to get protein. It doesn't mean that you have to eat meat at every meal, like suhoor and iftar. The healing crisis of fasting can have any of these symptoms. So you can end up with headaches. You can have sinus issues where you feel like you're going to get sick. You can feel like your throat is sore. You can get chest congestion. You can have acne on your skin. All of these things, it's because it's a detoxification. All the toxins that are residing in our sinuses or residing in our skin or in our gut, as they start to leave the body, it has to manifest somewhere. So you're going to start to see it showing up. It could be gallbladder spasms. It could be bitter taste in your mouth. All of these things are normal and part of the healing crisis, and they should usually get better after the 3rd to 5th day. Now, if your diet in Ramadan, if what you eat at suhoor and iftar is sabotaging this, then your healing crisis is going to last the entire month, because as your body is detoxifying, you're adding in more toxins. So again, it's very important that we pay attention to our iftar and our suhoor, because this is going to help us heal better and faster and lose weight. Whereas if we sabotage it, we're only going to make ourselves feel sicker longer and then probably gain a lot more weight in Ramadan and post-Ramadan. I see that there's a few questions. I'm going to answer them towards the end, inshallah. I hope I'll have time to answer them. So breaking your fast. So again, the most crucial and challenging part is not that you fasted all day, because we fast all day out of taqwa to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so the problem is when we break our fast, we think everything is halal. And yes, it's halal to eat, but it's not halal to harm your body. So it's important that this is where controlling the nafs is harder in the evening than it is during the day. During the day, you do it out of taqwa of Allah. You know that Allah can see you and hear you, so it's a little bit easier to obey that. In the evening, it's a lot harder because we think it's halal and we're free to do whatever we want, but we're not free to do whatever we want. If it harms us, then we're not allowed to do it. And I want you to see it as this type of example. If you had a job where you work 16 hours a day, every day of the week for 11 months out of the year, you would be exhausted. If you had to do this type of job every day, 16 hours a day, 11 months out of the year. And then your boss says to you, okay, you can have 1 month where you only work 6 hours a day or 8 hours a day. Would you expect that in that month that you should do everything you normally did in 16 hours within that 6-hour window? Would you try to cram in 16 hours worth of work into a 6-hour window? It wouldn't make sense, because that would actually be more detrimental to you, your health, and your energy levels than if you work 16-hour days. To cram 16 hours worth of work in 6 hours is more harmful. This is the same as us trying to cram 16 hours of food habits into a 6-hour window. So if your normal food habit is to get up in the morning, you have breakfast, you have your coffee, 2 hours later you have an apple, 3 hours later you have some snacks, you have some nuts, you might have a soda, you might have your lunch, dinner, then you might have chips, and you might have a dessert, and you might have a coffee. If you were to cram all of this type of food habits into a 6-hour window, you are going to make yourself sick in Ramadan, and you are going to make it's actually worse for you to do that in the 6-hour window than it is to do it in a 16-hour window. At least in a 16-hour window, there's a lot more time for processing, and like your stomach doesn't get congested as much as it would in Ramadan. So in Ramadan, if you're only allowed to eat within a 6-hour window, let's just say from 8 p.m. until 5 a.m. the next morning. Okay, so right now 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. is what? 10 hours? 9 hours? there's going to be a portion where you're sleeping, you shouldn't be eating. So you really only have maybe 3 to 4 hours where you can eat. So you'll have your suhoor and you'll have your evening meal. And you might have a light snack like a vegetables and dip if you wanted to before bed, but I wouldn't suggest a heavy meal before bed. If you really are hungry, you have to opt for something light, because if you do something heavy just before bed, you're going to develop GERD, acid reflux. You might wake up choking in the middle of the night because your acid is going into your lungs. You could develop gastritis. You could develop pneumonia. You could develop uh, gallbladder attacks. There's so many issues that can happen if we abuse our body, especially at night when the body is not meant to be eating, when it's meant to be resting. And that's the same for suhoor. You don't want to be having leftover like fried chicken and fries or burgers or heavy meals, or even lasagna or things that are heavy with cheeses. You don't want to be having these heavy meals at suhoor time. Your body is still meant to be sleeping at this hour. Your body is not used to eating at this hour. So if you're going to feed it, just give it something small. There's barakah in our suhoor. We don't need to eat a lot to have energy. It's actually a myth. The more you try to feed the body for energy, the more energy it takes to digest the food and make you feel more tired. You feel better, you feel more energetic when you eat less. You feel less energy when you eat more, because it requires energy to digest the food. So again, my recommendation is, if you're used to sipping on coffee after all day, you wouldn't want to do that all night. It's going to interfere with your sleep. You could be just cramming things into your body. So if you have to break habits during Ramadan, this is actually a good time to do it, because Ramadan is 29 to 30 days. Habits form within 18 to 21 days. If you do something for 18 days consecutive, then you've formed a new habit. So if you continue to eat the way you normally eat in the evening as you did during the day, then you're going to interfere with your body's ability to digest. Don't eat everything in sight. Really just serve yourself a small portion. You can wait 2 hours before you have a decaf coffee if you really need to have coffee, or a decaf tea. Make adjustments, learn to break habits. Ramadan is the month to break bad habits that we have with food. We should never be a prisoner to our food habits. You should never feel like you can't function if you didn't have your coffee, or if you didn't have your tea, or if you didn't have a soda. You should not be chained to your food that way. We control what we eat. Our food doesn't control us. Now, the Prophet Muhammad SAW, when he broke his fast, he recommended to us that whoever has dried dates, let him break his fast with that. And whoever doesn't, let him break his fast with water, for indeed water is purifying. So from a Islamic medicine perspective, why dates first, and why dates before water? And the reason for that is dates are easily digested, and they contain glucose, which is a natural sugar, which quickly reaches our bloodstream. And it actually energizes the body, because we run on glucose. Our body is designed to run on glucose. So when you've been burning glucose all day because your body has turned from uh, the energy that we eat from the nourishment that we get from food, it's turned to the fat. Once it's been doing that for a few hours, the first thing it needs to sort of stop that fat burning process is the glucose. So your body needs to start to have its sugar again. And so this is actually an amazing food to have at iftar and at suhoor. You need to be eating dates at both of these times, just because it's so beneficial for the body to have stabilized blood sugar as well. Water is recommended after dates, because water is purifying. It replenishes, it rehydrates, because your body's done so much work with the detoxification. It is suggested that we eat dates and drink water first, then perform our Maghrib prayer, and then come back and ease into the digestion of the meal that you're going to eat. And again, you wouldn't want to turn on your car on a winter day when it's been sitting outside for 18 hours and just turn on the car and start driving. Most of us give our cars time to warm up before we start driving, and that's the same with our stomach. If you haven't eaten in 12 to 14 hours, you want to ease into the digestion, otherwise you could really mess things up. Now, dates are considered warming or heating, and they do ignite the metabolic fire, so they improve our metabolism. For those who are who have an excessive metabolic fire, it's suggested that you eat the dates and cucumber to help balance out that heat so that you're not losing a lot of weight during Ramadan, and so that dates don't aggravate you, because dates can aggravate people who are choleric. So so that it doesn't aggravate you, you can always balance it with dates and cucumbers or dates and watermelon or dates and milk in order to slow down the fat burning as well. And the main meal should really only be one bowl. Again, the focus should be on clean digestion. And then you guys can try it and tell me how it's working for you. Obviously, anyone who tries it, I'd love to hear from you afterwards, just to see how you feel before and after. Another thing to keep in mind, Ibn al-Qayyim mentions that there are two qualities that harden the heart: sleeping too much and eating too much. And he mentions them as one of the five that corrupt the heart. So mixing excessively with people, gossiping and talking, wishful thinking, being attached to other than Allah, eating one's fill and sleeping a lot, these are things that corrupt or harden the heart. So it's important for us to know that this advice isn't just about, it's not just about eating less, it's not just about physical benefit. This actually also affects our spiritual self. The last thing we want is for us to eat our fill at Ramadan and harden our heart, because hardening the heart, we want to be able to connect to Allah SWT in the month of Ramadan and outside of Ramadan. So this is really important for us to develop this good habit in this month, because the fasting really helps by shrinking the stomach and making it easier for us to implement that. The balance between food consumption is very crucial for both our physical self and our spiritual self. There is a hadith by Ibn Mas'ud. I can't remember, did I mention it here? No, I haven't mentioned it here, but he recommends that for those who cannot afford to get married, that they should fast. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, those who cannot afford to get married, they should fast, because fasting serves as a shield against sexual desires. We know that there's a connection between food, sexual energy, and fasting, which is why fasting depletes the sexual energy. So the more you eat, it also increases sexual energy, and for those, it can actually cause more harm. So this is something that we want to balance, right? We want to balance how much we're eating, how much we're sleeping. And I heard someone say that, Ramadan disrupts our food habits and our sleep schedule. Actually, that's the complete opposite. Ramadan comes to correct our bad habits with our sleep and our food. And these are two things that harden the heart. So we actually are told to sleep a lot in modern medicine. And Islam actually corrects that, which is, you'll notice most of us are waking up for suhoor, we're waking up and doing our qiyam, because you're able to get up at suhoor time, which is before the sun rises. You have more energy, you're sleeping less. There's a whole spiritual component to our energy. It's not just from food, it comes from our spirituality. And there's tons of hadith about that as well. Unfortunately, I couldn't fit all of them in here. But again, the whole objective is we don't want food to come in between us and Allah SWT. We do want Allah SWT to, our hearts to be soft towards the Quran and Hadith and dhikr and all of that. So there's 7 things that we do that can nullify the physical benefits of our fast. And one, that's eating until you can barely breathe. If you already feel stuffed at the dinner table, then you know that you've gone way too far, and it's going to harm the benefits that you were supposed to be getting out of your day's fast. If you drink soda with your meals, it really interferes with digestion. If you have too many foods at the same time, so if you're eating too many types of foods, like too many varieties of foods all at the same time, kind of like a buffet where you're just picking at everything and eating, that can be very detrimental to your health as well. It's better to eat simple foods, easy to digest foods, not all heavy meals. You don't need to have chicken and fish and lamb all at the same meal. It really is, the simpler you eat, the better it is. To eat continuously for like that 6-hour window that we're allowed to eat, if we're constantly just grazing on food just because we're afraid that we're going to get hungry, or we don't want to lose our muscle mass, or we don't want to lose fat, then it's going to be counterproductive to our health. If you fill your plate with desire and not nutrition, if you're eating things just because they taste good, you like the fried chicken, you like the fried samosas, you like the heavy rice dishes, but you're not eating enough greens and vegetables and fibers and minerals that come from fruits and stuff. If you're not getting enough fruits, then it's just desire, it's not nutrition. And then don't drown yourself with fluids, even water. You don't have to have 2 to 3 cups of water at iftar. or 2 to 3 cups of water at suhoor. The sunnah is to sip on water. It's not to gulp water and drink it. We're not camels that drink like that. We're supposed to sip on water, and this really does affect our digestive system. And don't fast when you should not be fasting. If you're on your menses, if you're traveling, if you are pregnant, nursing, and you don't have the physical energy that you um, that is needed in order to continue your fast, you are allowed to break your fast during these specific times. So we shouldn't go against it. If you're on your, especially if you're on your menses, I know a lot of women won't eat because they don't want to, first of all, in front of their families, they don't want to show that they're not eating. Second of all, they don't want to lose the routine that they've just built. They say, oh, no, I'm just going to pretend like I'm fasting so that I can continue the routine and go when I go back and not have to restart all over again. That's an issue because your body needs food when you're in your menses. This is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us and allowed us to do. So we don't want to go against what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has designed. You should still be drinking your water. You should still be having nourishing meals. You don't have to overindulge. You don't have to go back to your old habits, but you certainly still need to be feeding your body at a time where you're shedding blood. How much time do I have? No, I've already almost gone over. I'm going to skip this one. I think I've addressed the whole food in moderation enough. So the Ramadan remedy, how to get the most healing out of Ramadan, inshallah. These are 10 things that are going to help your body heal. Be prepared for the healing crisis. Know that in the first 5 days, your body is going to go through this process. So pay attention to the things that cause your headaches. Is it the caffeine withdrawal? Could be sometimes candida. If you're used to eating sugar all day and now in Ramadan you're not eating sugar, you're going to be killing off candida during this fast. So you might have some withdrawal symptoms or die-off symptoms from killing off the candida. Hydration and bowel movements. You want to stay hydrated. There's a lot of natural laxatives like honey water or date water that can help you continue to have healthy bowel movements because bowel movements are part of detoxification and you want to be able to get the most detoxification. You don't want to slow that down. Portion control, we talked about that, eating only 1/3. Leave 1/3 for water or herbal tea or some beverage that's not soda, and 1/3 for air. Control what your eyes gaze at. If you're looking at food recipes all day long, if you are filling the table with food, it's almost similar to looking at the opposite gender. If your eyes are constantly looking at that which it desires, it's going to be difficult to restrain your desire once you have access to it. Cook less, focus on one dish meals. Don't create a table spread worth of food because in the end, if you have a lot of options, you are going to eat a whole lot more. And pace yourself. When you're breaking your fast, start with dates, water, pray your maghrib. Allow yourself to slowly get into the eating. Don't just dive in and stuff. And I know it's hard because we all do it, especially if there's gatherings. We all tend to sit and eat first until we're stuffed and then get up and pray. But subhanAllah, if we were to do that, it helps us pace ourselves with our food. Support your digestive system. In the Ramadan Remedy ebook that I give, I list a lot of herbal teas and cooling drinks that you can have from herbs or ayran or lassi that you can have with meals that will help actually digestion, such as kombucha or kefir. There's certain things you could take that improve digestion. So definitely take a look at the book. There's some recipes in there for you. After eating your iftar, refrain from eating for 2 to 3 hours. Sip on water slowly if you're thirsty. Choose easy to digest raw foods like fruits and vegetables and herbs, and then cook things that are difficult to digest, like obviously cabbage and broccoli and cauliflower and kale. These are things that actually are hard to digest when they're raw. It's better that you cook these foods if you want to eat them. Hunger is normal. Embrace hunger. It's not harmful. It's actually a way of your body healing. So embrace it and trust the 1/3 formula and maintain taqwa. Really stay conscious throughout the day to avoid accidental eating or drinking. Begin and end your meals with Bismillah and focus on nourishment rather than indulgence. This is all stuff that's going to help you heal. Being conscious during iftar is so much harder than being conscious during fasting. So this is why I stress on the iftar and suhoor, because we really have to pay a lot of attention to it in order for us not to sabotage our own healing. I do have 5 suhoor ideas for you because I know everyone asks me about what do you eat for breakfast. If you're able to have nut butter, whether it's peanut butter or almond butter, then I would recommend you make a sandwich. I prefer that you use sourdough bread because it's better for your digestive system. But instead of having it with peanut butter and jelly, try having it with nut butter and soft dates. So what you would do is you would spread nut butter on one side, and then you would put pieces of dates on it, and you close your sandwich and eat it sort of like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It's quite filling, it's quite nourishing, and that's all you would need to eat, and then you can always have water with them. I like my typical breakfast is always includes eggs. So eggs, olives, carrots, cucumbers, and then you can mix dill with lebne. Lebne is a thick yogurt. So you can either use yogurt or you could use lebne and mix in a teaspoon of chopped dill and with a little bit of pink salt onto your yogurt or lebne, and then use it to dip your carrots and cucumbers in it. It really is, it's really quite nice. And this is like a probiotic. The olives are probiotics. The eggs are your proteins. You get your fiber with your carrots and cucumbers. So this is quite a nourishing meal if you wanted to have that for suhoor. You can always keep it simple with just dates and water. For those who don't feel hunger at suhoor time, the advice is to keep it light. Don't feed your stomach when it's not hungry because that can always cause it more issues. Another type of light meal you can have is just apples with tahini and honey. So you would take 1 tablespoon of tahini with 1 tablespoon of honey, you mix it together, and then you use your apple and dip it and eat it like if you were eating it with a caramel sauce. It's really quite nice. And again, it has a lot of nutritional benefits within the tahini and honey that your body needs. Again, probiotics, it's warming, it has the glucose. There's a lot that it has, and the apple has the fiber, and the apple is really quite good for your gallbladder. So anyone who has gallbladder issues should be eating an apple a day. The other one is you can do eggs with dates. I don't know if anyone's tried that, but eggs with dates are quite common in the Mediterranean. And so you can make it into an omelet. You would chop up 1 to 2 dates, saute them with a little bit of red onions, and then with your butter, and then you would add your beaten eggs, and you could top it with parsley or dill or arugula and eat it like that. So these are just different ideas that you can have for breakfast. It doesn't have to be leftover biryani. It doesn't have to be leftover lasagna. These are quite heavy meals that I don't recommend that you eat for suhoor, especially if you're eating at the early hours of the day. It's better that you eat something light like this. The blessing is in the suhoor itself. There is barakah in what we eat at suhoor time. We don't have to overfill. We don't have to feel this need to stuff ourselves at suhoor so that we can maintain our nourishment throughout the day. This would be sufficient to nourish your body. And for iftar, make sure that you are starting with a date and a few sips of water. Think of your stomach as a cold engine on a winter day. You can't just win the race if you don't warm up the engine. Don't drown yourself with fluids that reduce the potency of your stomach acid. It will make it harder for you to digest your meal. And really the objective of this Ramadan is you should have clean digestion. You should feel that the energy comes from eating less and digesting better. Eat whatever you normally eat, but try to measure it into a bowl. So we're not restricting you. It's not like you can't have carbs. It's not like you can't have your dessert. Eat whatever you normally eat, but try to keep it to that 1 bowl size. And wait 2 hours before you eat anything more. Give your body that chance to start breaking down and digesting that food before you add anything in there. Try not to cram in 2 meals into your evening. If you're not hungry, so if you ate at 8 o'clock and then, or at 7 o'clock, and you're not hungry at 9:30, then don't force yourself to eat. If you want to eat something, keep it light, but don't eat another heavy dish like lasagna or biryani or pizza at 9 or 10 o'clock at night, where now your body needs more hours to digest it. It really is better to eat lighter. The less variety you put in front of you, the less likely you're going to overeat. Now, one thing I want to actually invite all of you to is there is a Ramadan community for Muslim sisters, which will include daily Quran classes, expert training sessions and reminders, daily and weekly challenges, as well as an online forum for everyone to sort of chat with. I am part of this community, and so I will be hosting more free webinars with this community, as well as sharing more resources such as ebooks and free recipes, inshallah. So I'm in, and the only way, the thing is, anything you donate to the community, 100% of it will go towards Palestine, inshallah. So this is a great place if you want to be with like-minded sisters who are trying to, you know, maintain their Quran recitation, who are trying to eat healthy, who want to have that sense of community, this is a great place to be at. And all you have to do is go to RamadanCommunity.com in order for you to log in. Any donation, anything you can afford would help, and then that way, inshallah, you'll get access to a lot more beneficial knowledge. Also, if anyone's interested in my Nurasunna Rediscover Wellness Masterclass for the entire month of Ramadan, it's going to be 40% off. All you need to do is go to propheticmedicine.com/masterclass, and the coupon is already embedded into the registration. So you just go there and register if you'd like to learn more. In the Ramadan, in the Nurasunna Masterclass, I do talk a lot more about the body types, about the prophetic diet, about myths, about food, about the different diets. It's a 16-hour course, so there's quite a bit of content in there that I obviously can't fit into a 1-hour presentation. I'm going to see your questions now. Give me 1 second. Where's my questions? Stop sharing. Okay, I'm starting. If your medical practitioner told you not to fast because you've come out of surgery, you need to take the advice of medical professionals. I wouldn't want to advise against that. And so there are times where we have situations where we can't fast. And if our medical professional tells us not to, then we should listen to that. So if you have had your gallbladder removed and you are having digestive issues, you really need to cut down on foods that are heavy or fatty. So vegetarian type meals are going to make less issues for you to less bloating. Also, you can begin with apple cider vinegar and water before you eat your meal. So if you put actually apple cider vinegar, honey, and water together in a cup and drink it at the beginning of your meal. So if you have your dates, then you have that honey, water, vinegar mixture, then eat your meal. It actually helps stimulate a little bit more digestive juices. But if you don't have a gallbladder, or if you have a gallbladder that doesn't function very well, you can't do heavy meals. You can't do fatty meals. So even if you have your menstrual cycle and you are continuing to eat, so long as you continue to eat and you're eating 2 meals a day and you're allowing yourself to get hungry, you're not constantly grazing on food. If you maintain some of the good habits that you've learned in Ramadan, your body is still in ketosis mode. It'll continue to burn fat. The only time it'll stop burning fat is if you go back to consuming food every 2 to 3 hours, giving it shuri or high carbs, where it's constantly in a high state of insulin, like a high state of glucose, then it won't be able to burn fat because you need to not have enough glucose in your bloodstream in order for your body to turn to fat to do that. So you can continue to eat, just again, focus more on veggie-based foods and not as much carbs and not as much sugary things. I heard that fasting affects our menstrual cycle. Please advise. To my knowledge, it does not. It improves our hormones, so it balances things out. It balances all types of hormones in our body, but there's no negative effect to like the fast that you do before you get your period. There's no negative effect of it to your period, inshallah. So if a melancholic body type wants to make sure that they're not losing a lot of weight, you should be eating protein and carbs. Yes, so you can have protein, could be animal protein, it could be chicken, it could be fish, it could be like beans, peas, but you also need a carb. So the carbs are really going to help maintain your reduce the fat burning. Because remember, we run on glucose, and so the glucose that comes from carbs is what, if we're deficient in glucose, then we're going to turn into fat burning. But if we have enough glucose, then we don't burn as much fat. So you would have to focus on making sure you get enough carbs into your diet. How much sleep is recommended in Islam? I cover that in the Nurasunna masterclass. It's quite a big topic. It's not as much as what modern medicine says, and it also depends on the time of day. So what we sleep during the winter months is different from the summer months because we are connected to the earth, we're connected to the sun cycles and the moon cycles. So it's not as simple as modern medicine says. It's not one size fits all, same thing all year round. You all need 8-9 hours of sleep. That's not true. And do you recommend exercising during fasting? If you are going to exercise, it's always best to do it in the last hour before you break your fast, so that way you're not dehydrated. You can immediately drink as soon as you're done your workout. Are pregnant and nursing women exempted from fasting? It is dependent on each person. So if a person doesn't feel that they're getting enough nourishment, or they're feeling fatigued. So there's ways to break the fast for the child. If you feel like you're not getting enough nutrients for the child, then you can break your fast. But if it's also for your own self, if you feel like you're fatigued, your body is not able to keep up with nursing, your milk is running low because you're fasting, then we are permitted to break our fast. Yeah, for some people, fasting is easy, pregnancy or not pregnancy. It doesn't matter for them. Yeah, the community is Ramadan community.com. That's where you can register to join that community. And this is the website for propheticmedicine.com/masterclass for anyone who wants to take the masterclass at 40% off. You have 1 year access. So even if you don't have time right now to study, if you purchase it while it's on discount, you will still have access for a year to complete the course. And obviously you get access to asking me questions in the course platform as well. وإياكم. Can you tell me something about acidic body or basic body and how to identify it? No, it wouldn't be enough time, and I'd have to ask a lot more questions to answer that. I have heard dates contain sucrose, so it releases energy slower over longer periods than glucose. That's why it's good for suhoor. Have you heard something like this? Yes, fruits have sucrose in them. So dates don't, because dates also come with fiber and they're hydrating. They're very balanced as a meal. I think there was someone on TikTok or Instagram, the people who wear the little glucose monitor and they monitor how their body does when they eat dates or they eat any types of foods. Someone tested out dates and said that their glucose level was quite balanced when they had dates. It didn't do the spike and drop it the way it does with other types of foods. So yes, fruits in general are hydrating. They have the nourishment that we need. It has the sugar that our body needs, the healthy sugars. That's it, everybody. Jazakumullahu khairan. Sorry for taking long. I know that a lot of you have iftar. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. جزاكم الله خيرا everyone for coming. السلام عليكم.